This
We
conference will now
currently
be
have
recorded.
two community members joining us virtually. I would like to call to order the Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission October General Meeting at 6:05 p.m. All right, we currently do not have quorum, so we will just move through the agenda without vote and just focus on discussion. All right, so we'll start with the first agenda item, which is roll call. All right, Latricia Adams present, here. Matthew Woods. All right, we have two LPC members who are present at the moment. Should any additional LPC members join us, we'll make sure to address them and acknowledge their presence for the record. We will move into the second item on the agenda, which is public comment. And just pause, I did just receive a message that another LPC member, Sharon Hyde, says that she is en route and running a little bit late. So again, when she arrives, I'll make sure that I record that for the record. All right, so moving along to public comment. We do have three individuals who would like to make public comment. We have two that are in person, and then it looks like the third person has not joined. But before we move forward with the two who are in person, is there anyone virtually that would like to make public comment as well? And you can either indicate it in the chat box or feel free to come off mute. Either way works. Maybe I need to close the door too. Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that we are all set with our virtual attendees. All right, so we can begin with Chet Kibble from the Memphis Shelby County led SAVE Collaborative, followed by comments from Sarah Houston from Protect Our Aquifer. All right, the floor is yours, Chet.
Well, one of the things that I want to talk about is, and I'm going to give you a copy of this history. In 2017, the Magellan, the Senate sent a letter to the Magellan Corporation, who was doing blood testing with their equipment, and they knew for over 3 years they would get false readings. Whoa, okay, that happened in 2017. Recently, I think it was like 4 or 5 months ago, there was a notice sent out that Magellan was really, really bad, and they were saying that any kids who took it recently should be retested. And I was wondering if we take that, we look into what was going on in our community, because Memphis has had so much lead poisoning in the past. We've always been 90% of the kids they test have lead. Now the real question is, really, what is their body weight? And that was the issue that I've been pushing, that we have a lot of chronic lead poisoning people. And because of what Magellan did, and the fact that to me, I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I wondered, did we actually have those children be tested? Did we look for them? It was recommended that should take place. And the other thing I have is that we're doing testing. We've been doing water sampling through the community, and I've been sharing those with you, and I'll share some more of those with you. But what I found out today is that, like, yes, and water refused to test this water. And the reason they said they couldn't test this water is because it had some rust in it, some coloring. So she said the water had to be clear. I want to repeat that. The water had to be clear for them to test it. So I had a discussion with her. So, I know if you see rust and you got lead pipes, there's a good chance that rust had lead. Okay. So if you're going to run the water and clear it until it's clear, then you won't get the right results. This was not taken out the hot water tank. It was taken directly out the system. On that street, there's been complaints that their water is brown a lot of times. On that particular street, we have the lead poisoning children who are not old enough to crawl. I mean, they're not even crawling, and they live poison. And we did find lead in the water. That street has lead water. And it's not on the computer. If you pull theirs up, when the computer was working, that street, there's several streets that doesn't show they have lead water. But after we did a sample and asked them to check it out, they went and checked it out and found out, well, yeah, she does have lead water. So that's my concern, is that we don't really understand the history of Memphis. And that's what I wanted to leave with you. what we have here, the history goes back to 1976, and I think that's important to understand. So that when we talk about chronic lead poisoning, Memphis really is a city with an enormous number of chronic lead poisoning people. And because of the science of transgenerational epidemiology, that proves that things that happen to a person that lead poisoning can be passed down through generations, such as brain damage, high blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. That's happening in Memphis. Okay, so that's not make believe. And then when we go back, we were fortunate in some ways that as far back as 1999, we got our first, 1998, we got our first lead grant where the health department started testing children in lead. Well, if you read this article, we talk about the going on college opened up the environmental research and training center. And the first thing that we had a health fair. And in order for the kids to ride the horses and do this, they had to take blood. So that was one of the ways that we got a lot of stuff going. And that's when the Environmental Research and Training Center got started. So the bottom line is that we have chronic lead poisoning. We must get to a point where we understand no level of lead poisoning in certain communities is going to be acceptable because the kids have a body burden. My final statement, I know I want to take up the whole meeting, but the other thing I want to say is that a question I want to ask is that when the school was doing testing, they were doing blood testing, were they doing the ZTP test or the lead level test?
Can you repeat the first name again? I'm sorry.
Okay, the test, the ZTP, zinc polypropylene, that's the test that tells you if you've been exposed to lead. It doesn't tell you got lead in your body now, because lead only stays in the blood for 8 weeks. Right? It stays in the body for over 30 years. So the question that we need to ask for our community is that, okay, when you do a blood test, we need to do ZTP test. A blood lead level test is okay, but the body burden test, we want to know if the child's been exposed.
So this would be the test that was administered by the health department.
Well, did they administer both or did they just administer lead level test? You have the blood lead level test that tells you if you have lead in your blood right now. Okay, the ZTP test tells you if you've been exposed to lead. That's the question part. Okay, we need to know if we've been exposed to lead. The other thing that we should seriously consider when we talk about grants is that, we've been doing these water samples, and I'm going to share that with you, Tricia, what we found out. Lead poisoning kids, we asking people, do you have lead poisoning children in the house? Let us know. Lady told me today that she has an 8-year-old, he can't talk, he can't do very much. He was lead poisoned, but nobody got a new help or anything. She doesn't know about how to deal. She just told me basically she feels like nobody is trying to help, because she's got a child that can't function. And then we found a lot of, like I said, we've been asking people, do your kids have any level of lead in their body? So that's the other thing that I think needs to be important to talk about. Our school system should understand that the child has a 3 or 2 or any level. The question is, how many exposures have a child had? What is the body burden? I'm gonna wrap it up with this statement. I checked with the Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. That's who does the body burden test. If you go to our website and look at Ward, it'll give you an article on the major who was identified with chronically lead poison. But what I asked them is that did they ever take their equipment somewhere and test the community for the body burden? And they did do it in one of the mountainous areas where they had lead mines and things like that, where the whole town was contaminated. So they actually went up there and did body burden tests to see what the level of lead in your body. The body burden is how much stored in your body. In Memphis, a lot of our people have body burden.
Okay, so I have a couple of follow-up questions, and some of this because of the privacy component of it. With that parent, is it possible offline to be connected with that parent? Because I am concerned around the parent expressing that they had not received support for eligibility services under IDEA. So is it possible for us to connect offline where okay. Okay, awesome.
To share that information.
Okay, so we could connect offline where I can ensure that the individual and their child at least is evaluated and is entered into the process to determine if they're eligible to receive services. Our follow-up, so with the first thing you mentioned around Magellan, So we can follow up offline to the Shelby County Health Department, childhood lead poisoning prevention program. There we go. To pose that question around if they were using the Magellan product, and if so, like what's the plan to do retesting since it was given inaccurate readings. Also, if you have like any like resource or reference that you can share with me, that would be helpful for me to send to that correspondence to the health department. Also, I will be following up offline regarding, I'm very disturbed by the refusal of this water sample. First of all, how can you even assess whether or not it's rust? Just scientifically, that's very haphazard to look at a specimen and just based off view determine that it's rust, without actually doing your due diligence to determine if it's rust or not. Very upsetting. So I will be following up immediately with Nick Newman and the water team around why that was rejected as far as this sample, particularly being that this particular address, which we will maintain privacy for the context of this meeting, appears to be connected to a lead service line. So that's extremely problematic, and I would like to get clarity on that. And then also regarding the question that you posed around which type of test is being used by the health department. It's a caveat to that too. I really wish that we had more information around what happens at like with pediatricians, so with private physicians as well. I know that gets real touchy, but what I do know that we have the right to ask, at least the health department, are they using the ZPP test, or is it a specific name for the other BLL test?
The blood level test is just that, the blood lead level.
Okay.
That's how you actually test what's in the blood.
Mm-hmm. So the question is, have they used the ZPP test, and if they have not, is the recommendation that they should? Okay.
And the reason for that is that we have a history of long-term lead poisoning in Memphis. And so to not test to see what the body burden is, and that's the real issue, understanding the body burden, to not look for the body burden in our community is really a serious oversight. Because when you talk about, just like EPA was here yesterday, and I was talking to I got to introduce you to the people, Lamar and Collins, the two people who took over environmental field. They were talking about the 15 parts per billion, that number, like, for Memphis, that's not anywhere near an acceptable number. The number of the school, we talked about that. The number that we need to shoot for in certain communities is zero tolerance because of the body burden. It's just a fact that has to be accepted or debated, talked about. If you don't believe it, let's talk about it.
Got you. And then the last point around the body burden assessments. So I wanted to make sure that I'm clear. So is the recommendation for the health department to engage in doing body burden assessments? So what's the recommendation? Because I don't want to phrase it.
The recommendation is let's see if one of the hospitals is willing to take that on, or if we can convince Mount Sinai to come to Memphis. The reason Mount Sinai went to this area up in the mountains was that there was a community, it was a lead mining community, and 70 to 80% of their kids was tested positive for lead, not lead poison, but they had lead in their body. Memphis is at 90%. So what I was suggesting that, could we encourage you to come here and do that for us, or teach somebody else how to do it? It really needs to happen. And then that'll help justify when we talk about what tolerance, what level is okay. And why can you say certain schools can't have none? Over here you can't have none. But if you go out there to Colleyville, because they're not to be ugly, but they, if their kids don't have a body burden, a little bit of lead, you talking about a 2 or 3, a lot of people comfortable when they see a 2. Oh, that's a 2, that's a 3. Well, in our community, a 2 or 3 can be too much. Especially when you got what? body burden.
Mhm. Okay, and then I want to add on to that, and this kind of circles back to the discussion that we had at the August meeting. There was a request from a legislative perspective for there to be a lead study, and the request was for it to potentially be carried through now Senator London Lamar. I think that this particular like aspect is something that will also be helpful if that's the direction as far as legislative advocacy. Even I think from a local perspective as well. But at least like if it's from a state perspective, then regarding funding, that could potentially be an additional stream. So what I can do, I could do both. This is further down in the agenda, but I am scheduled to go before County Commission next week, essentially advocating for environmental justice funding through all of these streams of federal funding. That is literally a once in a lifetime opportunity, and for there to be more than what the 160,000. Thanks. That's a wonderful start. The first time ever that we had some legislation that said environmental justice. So that's a big win. I think that was the entry point to us really focusing on that. But that I think that this layer is really important. Also, I'm wondering, since there is a lot of existing work with Labanner, that's the first entity that came to mind. I wonder would they also be interested and kind of supporting this work if this is
Oh, I'd
a
be
city.
surprised if they not, because one of the things, a lot of requests that I'm getting to go out to houses have been clients of the bombers, they testified that they had lead. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like the little 3-month, 6-month-old child, they had lead poisoning. I mean, so the bomber is very aware that affects them. And that's why they started the MHEs, mass home environmentalists. They do what they call pay for performance. But bomber was doing such a good job of cutting down kids with asthma coming back to the clinic because of the inspections we were doing, et cetera. And that's when they came up with it, well, I'll pay for performance. So let's, here's the hospital reducing their income. Should they be rewarded? And that's how they got started with MHG, they got the grant, sharing. So it started from them dealing with asthma. We would go out to the houses and look for asthma treatment and teach people how to reduce that. And the results did show up to where they reduced the number of visits that those child will have for asthma attacks.
I do want to acknowledge on the record that LPC member Sharon Hyde is present, and I am recording that. Hey, Sharon. Hey. All right. Thank you for providing that comment, Chet. I have taken thorough notes and it's recorded, so I will be sure to follow up on those deliverables. I also want to pause before we move to our next commenter, which is Sarah Houston from Protect Our Aquifer. I do see that we have 2 callers who are present. We are still on the public comment agenda item. I wanted to take the time to acknowledge the callers if either of the 2 were here to make public comment before we move to our next in-person commenter.
Okay, Annie Dickerson.
You said Annie Dickerson?
Yes, Annie
Okay.
Dickerson.
Okay, Ms. Dickerson, we'll have you to make your comment immediately following Ms. Sarah Houston. Does that work?
Well, I didn't want to make a comment. I want to listen to the whole thing first. This is my first time.
Go,
So,
go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
I apologize for that, but I was just very interested in this. So if I have a comment, I'll make note.
Okay, awesome. And no pressure at
Okay,
all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so Sarah, we're all set.
Hi, everybody. First time here. Thank you for having me. Sarah Houston, I serve as the Executive Director of Protect Our Aquifer. I've known of y'all's commission for a while, and I'm glad to get to speak to y'all. I appreciate a lot of the work that's led in this like current, very real crisis. And I want to ask for y'all's help in more of the groundwater source pollution issue that is very also real and plaguing our drinking water supply. Pollution control has a groundwater management sector as part of the Shelby County Health Department. So they pretty much act as our quote unquote groundwater management. As you can imagine, their duties and responsibilities do not match the actual work that they do. It's very underfunded. There's not a lot of technical expertise. There's vacancies in that department. And those powers have been granted to Shelby County through the Tennessee Water Quality Control Act of 1977. And so back in the 70s, there was a lot of chemical contamination they found out in East Memphis from a couple different paint manufacturers, DuPont, and other folks, where they were seeing these high levels of toxins in the groundwater. And that kind of led, as part of this 1970s environmental movement, and led Tennessee state to, think about some additional groundwater specifics. We don't have the same kind of federal protections that surface water do. Groundwater is not really regulated. It's all on a very local level. So Tennessee kind of was like, let's take some strides in this. And in 1987, Shelby County passed the first ordinance that set up this groundwater board. And then 1990 is when it really got going. And so Shelby County supposed to have representatives from all municipalities, MLGW, a city appointed person from the mayor, public appointee, mayor from the county, and then an engineer appointed from the mayor of the county, an engineer appointed from the mayor of the city.
You didn't mention no citizen group.
Those are supposed to be the citizens.
Oh, those people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Luckily, most recently, Director Aquifer was able to get a really great environmental advocate, Alex Tinsley. She's been appointed to the groundwater board as Mayor Harris's citizen appointee. Right now, there's a vacancy in the mayor's, Mayor Strickland's appointee, so there is no citizen appointed position in that right now. And so this board is supposed to be tasked with a lot of this, broader management, like the remediation. We have 61 active polluted sites that are under remediation. There's over 200.
When you say sites, you mean well?
No, actual like old dry cleaner sites or old companies, like just general parcels that are known to have groundwater pollution.
There's one on the E team, environmental team, Mayor Harris's team, that's owned, it's a county owned, right here, it's like between two apartments. And the water is like, it's a pool, like a lake, but that's actually owned by the county. It keeps coming up on the environmental team list as having some pollutants and groundwater issues, so.
You said, where is that at?
Yeah.
I'll have to look at the team meeting.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Ooh, Lord.
So that kind of helps illustrate a point. There's really not an overarching, anybody really in charge of understanding all this stuff. And hello. And that's, Protect Our Aquifer, we formed up back in late 2016, really specifically to challenge the 5 deep wells that TVA drilled onto their gas plant that was going to be drawing about 5 million gallons of water every single day. And it was right across the street from their unlined coal ash pits. That there are 300 times the legal level of arsenic in the groundwater there. There's high concentration of lead, fluoride, mercury. And so POA formed up to challenge those specific wells. And our founder at the time just thought that would be kind of a short fight and, protecting the aquifer, we're done. Coming to find out that, there's really not a lot of overarching understanding of how are we keeping track of all of these legacy pollution sites and making sure that we're not exacerbating the issue and we're actually cleaning them up. And so we kind of say that there's no water sheriff in town. Ward wants us to get badges really fast. I don't want to get in trouble for impersonating an officer, but I like where that's at. And so, we've spoken to the groundwater board, we've talked to Mayor Harris, talked to the health department, And there's a whole lot of, kind of pointing fingers and deprioritizing. There's not a lot of urgency placed on this issue. And so, bringing this to y'all's attention today is not expecting y'all to like solve all of these issues. I wish it was that easy, but it's more to kind of put it on y'all's radar, think about how we can be working together, and, elevating the issue, because it's really about clean drinking water. And like the lead component has a place in that conversation with the source water protection. And when you have a polluted water source, it leads to higher corrosion rate of your lead pipes. That's what you saw in Flint. We want to keep the quality in our aquifer like super high to what it is today. And in some places, that quality is being jeopardized. And so, the ask right now is, just to like build this relationship and really think about how we can prioritize federal funding and really pressure the administration and the health department to prioritize grant writing and make sure they're working with these community groups to understand where the problems lie and how can we bring dollars into Memphis to deal with remediation, to deal with, new well replacement, to deal with, reducing the pool of contaminants into the deeper aquifer. And so that's kind of the ask right now. And, I plan on attending these more often and working closely with Patricia. And, I know that this is a very exciting opportunity for all this money, and like, how do we make sure we get it here to do the right thing and it doesn't just go into these pockets and it's like, where's the work being done? Yeah, and that's a big concern with the level of money coming down the pipeline. It's like those dollars could just float away in ways that is not actually supporting the people that need the dollars and need this money. So it's kind of a bigger, geographical scope as far as like the aquifer is concerned, but it, plays into this like sustainability, clean drinking water. And, like our mission is protect, conserve, and preserve the Memphis Sand Aquifer. And we can only do that with support and help and collaboration. And so I want us to try and figure out how we can work together.
And those online areas over there, are they doing any special testing?
So that's a great question. So TVA's got these unlined coal ash pits. So they started to do the excavation and move the coal ash, and that's been a whole thing.
They moving to where?
To South Shelby landfill. So
Line, is it line there?
it is a lined landfill, and so they've done a good job on the engineering of the landfill. Our concern, there's kind of twofold. One is they're doing trucks, so they're running 240 loads of this toxic coal ash every day through South Memphis.
Covers on them.
They got covers. They're sealed bottoms, so they're only side dump trucks, and there are covers on it. And the truck's supposed to be rinsed every time they get. The last time I drove the route, there was a lot of dust on the mud flaps. I mean, I didn't like scrape a sample or anything, so I can't speak with any sincerity if it was just dust or if it was coal ash dust. But that's the kind of thing where, that gets into an air issue. And so Protect Your Aquifer's mission, aquifer, I got my blinders up, but not really, because that's part of this remediation that we had advocated for, is moving the coal ash because it's sinking into the drinking water supply. But then TVA process to determine how to move that coal ash was very flawed, and they went with the cheapest bidder, and the cheapest bidder is just driving it through Black Memphis. Why is that the only option for 10 years of this truck driving? And that's additional diesel fumes, that's additional potential exposure to this dust. So like that's an issue. But then on the actual testing side of the coal ash ponds, they've drilled in some monitoring wells around the edges, and they've tried to get a sense of where this plume of arsenic and lead fluoride are. Our issue is that we don't think they've drilled deep enough. We think the plume might be deeper than what they're saying it is. And they haven't drilled into the center, which is understandable because you don't want to push the contaminants down deeper, but you also can't say with, any type of certainty that this is the plume. The plume is very likely deeper and more concentrated, and there is no, geologically, we've got that shallow aquifer, we've got this thick clay layer, and we've got the Memphis sand. But the clay layer is known to have just naturally occurring cracks, breaches, windows. And so that allows all the crap we've been doing on the surface to sink down into deeper aquifer. Directly below the coal ash ponds, there is no natural clay. So there's a direct connection.
Oh.
And MLTW's Davis Well Field is just downstream of that. And 2019 and 2020, there was a well by well testing, no arsenic in there yet. But in the shallow aquifer, right next to those wells, there is arsenic. So it's headed in that direction. And so like part of this would be the charge of the health department to somehow enforce different management of pumping there, so you're not pulling it down faster. Shelby County is not doing anything on that. And MLGW's kind of talking to U of M, Caesar, who's done the most recent study with Davis Well Field, but how they're enacting that science is very unclear. And that's where the health department could step in based on how the expertise or the staffing to understand even how to do that.
Yeah, but this is a new thing out there called training.
There's this thing, you know? And so that's, you know, like with like where some of these federal funds could go to, I think you're spot on, Chad, is like training is a huge opportunity.
And I would like to suggest one of the things that happened with our group, when I was EPA environmental training, one of the guys in our group in their city, they actually trained a lot of the community members to be inspectors or spotters. That's why, does anybody over there will talk about TBA, what if every now and then a citizen, what somebody was trained, went over there and sampled some of the trucks and they left, they leave. Or we did air monitoring over there, over in South Memphis, where that plant is releasing all of that sterilization, to where we did air monitoring.
Right.
You know, to where we have community members that's been trained to do that, and they know we have it. And that's what they had in the area we had. They had community people that was trained, and they would bring out their air monitors in the morning and sit them on the porch. You know, everybody would have one, but they was on different streets. Then they would report to each other. And because they're actually doing that, and it's going through our community, we already have a number of things going on. We need to prevent any kind of exposure. So I would think that would be one of the things we should try to do with the grant money, is to try to get that training to where we can have some specialists. And one of the things in that article I gave you to be doing is that, just like at the morning, we talk about water samples, different things. We count on everybody to do their sampling for us, and they're the ones that's creating the issue.
Right.
So you know, you got to.
You have to believe what the industry's reporting.
Exactly. And that's what we find out without not doing the water sample. We find out it's not all like that's water's fault.
Right.
But when somebody disturbs your pipes, do something, you got layers, et cetera. We need to have a way to start checking behind people. And they need to know that the community's gonna check. I think that would make a big difference.
Absolutely. I think like with the coal ash move, I think that's a total opportunity right there to collect that data. And when you said about like there's no more room for this additional pollution, it's like the cumulative impacts that specifically South Memphis has experienced with all of the different sources of pollution. Like that is not part of the current environmental impact statement process that TVA does. They're not looking at cumulative impacts. They're looking at their site specifically and said, oh, this is only an additional 0.4% of trucks on the road. This is only. Like this is also, you're adding to an already burdensome problem. And I think that's one of the flaws in just EIS.
Anybody doing the air monitoring of it? They don't have, is that being air monitoring?
So MCAT, Memphis Community Against Pollution, they have been talking about doing some more air monitoring. And so actually I'll say TBA is doing some on-site air monitoring. So is TDEC. But yeah.
TDEC is involved.
TDEC is involved. So TDEC is the one that has issued them all of their remediation permits. And so TDEC has kind of been one of our main audience, one of our main people that we've been trying to engage with, and especially on the groundwater remediation side, like we're focused on making them have TVA expand their monitoring and understanding of the plume.
Do they share those results with y'all? TDEC share their monitoring results?
Yes. Usually we have to FOIA it. They'll cough it up, but so those are my comments.
Thank you. So I have a couple of follow-ups.
Mhm.
So let me make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So right now with this transporting of coal ash,
Mhm.
there is not currently a local accountability and oversight protocol that's in place to assess like what's going on during this transition of transporting of
It's,
this.
it's all under TVA and TDEC. So TDEC
Oof.
has said that they have hired a site-specific person to monitor this whole thing.
One
One person.
And he's here.
One
He's
person.
here all the time.
That supposedly that is his full-time.
And he's based here, or is he in Nashville?
He's in.
Okay.
Well, last time I actually don't know who they've hired and what, because last time I talked to them, this has been, it was Ronnie Atkins I was talking to.
Oh, okay. Ronnie's still the boss, though, I think.
Ronnie's still the boss. We like Ronnie. He'll answer any
Yeah,
questions.
yeah.
Yeah, he knows. So I think he was the one that was really pushing having that person, but
That name Degree got his dad.
they hired this person under the remediation branch. So the last time I had talked to Ronnie was probably about 2 months ago on this, and they hadn't actually made the hire yet. So I don't know if that's, but the job post was out there. So I don't know if that person's been trained or what, but there is supposed to be a state agency person on site that is purely compliance.
Okay. Do you know, and this can be a follow-up question that I have no qualms with asking to TDEC. What do they have plans on, like providing some aspect of transparency with those results when they become available? And I'm not talking about posting shade, but no shade to TDEC, posting it on a website, but really doing their due diligence to engage with community on the front end so that we don't have similar things like we had yesterday with EPA. After the damage is done, 40 plus years later, you go before community. Are there plans around the community outreach and engagement and education component once those results come in, whether they be positive or negative? No. Okay.
Not that I know.
Okay.
Nope. And honestly, the way this public meetings, like the required public meetings that TVA held, it was very disingenuous, and it was very much like, here's what's happening, deal with it. And it wasn't, there really wasn't. And I mean, POA has been a commenter on these permits and process since 2019,
Mhm.
and almost none of our comments have been actually addressed. And even in public meetings, it was like dog and pony show, we're doing this, we're gonna wash the trucks, look how nice these trucks are, it's gonna be great, yay. And it wasn't like actually having any input taken into it.
Now that you say that, because TVA does have federal implications, because like their board is confirmed by the Senate, I wonder if they're subject to FACA. Because if they are, you can't not respond to people's comments. Even if you say like, we don't have a response to your comment, like I'm just curious, are
They
they?
do respond, and they say that.
They say that.
Yeah. They do a lot of, they also do a lot of redactions, and they also do a lot of citing of the ordinances where they don't have to provide certain information. So like we've requested like the bids, like all the RFPs on the coal ash move, like what were the bids, what were the other options, and we never got any of that information. But what we did get was the fact that they got 2 bids for this $300 million project. So our best guess, having not actually seen what those 2 bids look like, is they chose the cheapest one, which was trucks through Southern.
All right. Well, thank you for this. I have to let that sink in. Thank you for the very robust citation. I think one next step for us as a LPC, I'll be honest, like I've never personally engaged with the groundwater board.
Not many have.
But I think that, being that we are also, a mayoral appointed and commission confirmed entity, that I think, from a collaborative perspective, that we should put that on the radar, like, hey, Like, what do we need to do, like, to collaborate on this? Because it's still very much so overlap. And then as it relates to just, it's such a critical need for both the city and the county, but today we have to talk about the county. A need for just a pollution reduction plan. I mean, on all fronts, like, I mean,
Like enforcement of industrial
Yes,
policies, like that
yes.
needs to happen.
right,
Air, land, and water.
exactly,
Like you can operate your facility here, but you gotta recycle the water and put all your air scrubbers in there.
right. Like, you can't come here and pollute and kill people. And then, like, when you're done, like, you just peace out and like leave all this damage.
Bankrupt from another company.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. And
yeah.
then it becomes it becomes the responsibility of the state and the county, and then we're in charge of cleanup.
Fix it up.
Ooh, well, thank you so much.
thank you for
So I didn't get anyone that was virtually that had a public comment. So we're gonna actually move to the next agenda item. Thank you to my commenters for this evening. So moving to the next agenda item. So we won't do approval of minutes, the August meeting. Quorum was not met. So all points on that agenda was for discussion. So we'll now move into old business, starting with the update regarding lead testing, site distribution with Memphis Shelby County Schools. So maybe a month and a half ago, I reached out to Memphis Shelby County Schools asking what are the next steps to actually distribute like flyers with all of the testing locations for the Shelby County Health Department. I still have not heard back. This is a prompt to me to ask again. I honestly think what I'm going to do next for the, probably not for October, in November, I'm going to make public comment, which is going to be so interesting, where I'm going to ask them in public forum again. I'm not going to go back and forth with you about a simple request. And I'll be quite frank, the fact that we worked for at least 6 months, trying to work with the district to actually do on-site testing, and they said no very abruptly without a rationale. I plan on addressing that in public comment as well. I want to know why. Especially being that the district has our pre-K Head Start programs. I don't understand why that kind of was just a door that seemed to be open and it was just shut. That's my update there. Were there any questions or comments about that update?
Well, that testing that you're asking for, you just want to, you're asking me to do testing at the school.
Yes, so the lead of the actual like children. So we had tried to like collaborate like with their nursing like manager with Memphis Shelby County Schools, and they appeared to be like we're on board, but then something happened and literally it was very abrupt and it was like, nope, we're not gonna do it.
So
We really need it.
testing really since the COVID hit, it's really been low.
Yeah, so testing has been extremely low. Like it was already low, but then like when COVID hit, I mean, it was bad. So even when we did the whole social media campaign, like we did a billboard, they still only had about like 8 per month, like 8 tests. So it's really low. And so with testing being that low, that means that when they get ready to try to advocate for something, if they try to do some type of data to demonstrate like this being a critical need,
Yeah.
the end number is too low. If you just base it on such a small population.
Yeah, and because I really think that's important that they test the children. We've always had a history of high results. Never less than 90%
Yeah.
of them had the test had lead. So I don't see a way that they should be reducing that. I think we need.
Yeah.
That's
Sharon.
So, Lavonner does have a community outreach nursing program in schools. And I just don't know what schools they're in, but I think she would be Cindy Hall is the manager of that. And it's in low performing schools that Lavonner has a lot of kids at and everything. And I do feel like she would be really open to having.
You said Cindy Hall?
Hogg, H-O-G-G.
Oh, I know her. She was really helpful with helping us with COVID stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
so she is the manager of the nurse program, and she is tutor down in the office. So we can talk to her to see what schools she has, if they are the children at the age, I'm not sure what schools, which are elementary, which are, high school age and things like that. But that's at least somebody to get us into some of these school doors.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. Because it's really weird, because I'm like, it wouldn't pose a conflict of interest because they have like nurses that are contracted out anyway. But I'm like, but I really don't get it. I'm not gonna try to figure out why they said no. So they're ready. So they're literally like begging like folks to come and get their kids tested. So it's not on them. It's not, I'm gonna say that, and you know that I tell the truth. Yes, yes.
We're doing these work samples, that's what people asking us about. Should you test it? So
It's
Every
like,
place is
shoot,
free?
like 15 different places or more satellite sites throughout the city and the county.
Okay.
And so, you know that they got one manager, they still got 2 nurses. So they're very limited. So they have reached out to us before, with, wait, let me delineate. They reached out to community-based organizations before to say like, hey, like, can you help us to get more parents to bring the babies to get them tested? And it doesn't have to be a specific age. Just,
Okay, you mean they'll test kids at 6 or 7 years old?
Mm-hmm. And so what prompted that is when the first, when the lead bill went into effect in 2019, and they did the first round of testing and sounded the alarm, red flag. So at that time, Mayor Harris immediately was just like, the health department, do what we need to do so the health department can go ahead and provide that free testing at first it was like for kids that went to the schools that came back with elevated levels, but the health department was just like, nah, whatever, this is our time. So whoever wants to come and get tested, like, you can get tested. And so the sites were expanded. So the resources are there. It just need like more people to get tested. So Memphis Shelby County Schools, their recommendation when they shut us down was like, nope, you can't do it like on our sites. They did agree to say that they would distribute the list of all of the satellite sites. But I get that. But my thing is, you want to try to catch people like where they're at, like eliminate like that. We know that we have issues with truancy. Let's be real. We know that we have issues like with transportation. We have a myriad of issues that are pervasive in the city. So if we know that, then we want to try to create as many avenues as possible. If you do have kids that are showing up to school every day, do it at school, especially if you have people that are willing to do it. Right.
Just trying to get that done can be kind of challenging.
If they could just give me a reason, even if it's a legal reason, just tell me why,
So their schools are A.B. Hill Elementary,
Okay.
Riverview K through 8, Hamilton K through 8, Hamilton High, and then Magnolia Elementary.
Now, what are these
You
schools?
said Hamilton K through 8 and
Hamilton High
And
and
Hamilton
Magnolia
High.
Elementary. These have a nurse on site in these
Oh,
schools
yeah.
Oh, okay.
run by Lamar.
So you said A.B. Hill, Riverview Middle,
Riverview K through 8,
Riverview K through 8. Okay.
Hamilton K through 8,
Okay.
Hamilton High, Magnolia Elementary. So
Okay.
there's 4 elementary schools there, 4 of the 5.
Okay. Cool. Okay, we'll go that route. Still gonna make public comments. Yep.
I have a question, but it might be it's kind of what we talked about. Are they still calling trouble schools only if they are over 20 parts per million?
So technically, if you are over 15, then you have to retest. But like the marker is actually like 20. But I will give it to Shelby County Schools if you go over the 15 parts
Talking
per.
about the water, when they test the water. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. So we did advocate and try to push locally for the district to lower the level, but they contested that and said that it would need to be a legislative change, which is very fair. And then also from a political perspective, if we tell Memphis Shelby County Schools, if we're advocating for them to lower the threshold, we got to get these municipalities to do it too, because they're not being held accountable either.
Well,
And their levels are high too.
yeah, well, and that's what I said, that, I guess we need to talk about the citizens. How do we reinforce that issue? Because for Memphis, for us to think that if it's 10 parts in the water, you're gonna say it's okay. In some schools, we know that that's totally, that's that. Even the bottom,
Yeah.
you know, we just gotta start talking about what areas need. If you go to the doctor, he doesn't give everybody the same medicine.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I guess that's kind of where I'm at. I'm stuck into where, well, I won't say they stuck on stupid, but we know what's happening, but you don't want to do anything about it. And so we still have this problem with our kids. I mean, so I'm a little disappointed, but I'm gonna talk.
Yeah.
So you say you got to be changed legislatively?
I mean, Memphis Shelby County Schools has the right to amend their own policy. So each respective municipality, each respective district, okay, can establish their own lead policy as long as it's in alignment with the state statute. So for example, even individual charter schools have the right to establish their own respective policy if it at minimum includes all of the things that are captured in the state statute.
Right.
So they can do it if they wanted to do it, but it does not appear that they
And,
do. I don't know. We asked and we didn't get a response on that. We
Right.
asked like before the bill actually went into effect. And I mean, based on actions, it did not happen as it was not amended. Now something else that is troublesome, if there is this bare minimum approach, the state of Tennessee is feeling that they are progressive because there's not a whole lot of states in the country that even has a statute or a mandate like this.
Right.
Then on top of that, the lead and copper rule still is in flux. And so we just put it in the newsletter today that they don't even anticipate the revisions going into effect until the last year of this administration's tenure. 24.
Okay.
I knew what I called it. Calls it, yeah.
Well,
So,
and the thing that I say about the EPA rule that I'm gonna talk to Ronnie Atkins in the state, is that EPA is not saying you can't do it now.
right,
They're saying it's gonna be mandatory in 2022.
exactly.
What I'm saying has to happen is we have to recognize what we have. We got to get other people recognize. Our city is in need and we're extremely sick. So to tell us to wait when we already been waiting, and some of y'all had that letter, we started talking about this back in 1996. You know, we started talking about the issues in Memphis and where we are. So, we're gonna work on that. I'm lost this too.
I'm with you. We asked. We asked, y'all were there. And we asked, the community asked, like at minimum, could it be at 5? We referenced the work that Black Millennials for Flint did in DC and in the state of Maryland, where it went to 5. I think Massachusetts is at 5.
That's fine when they're gonna take action, but the goal is still shooting for 0.
Right, right.
So that's the part I think that some people missing, is that some areas, because of the level that the kids already have in their body, because of their lineage, you know, where they came from, the parents exposed, et cetera. We just have to get to a point where you got to treat us different. And that's probably where my frustration comes in at. I'm not, you know, and I'm gonna talk to the right people and move forward. I'm not gonna give up because they're gonna have too long, but I'm really frustrated that no matter how much we show you, how much we research we do, you still put us in the same category as everybody else, and we don't belong in that category. You know, we got some schools that there's no way you should be saying that 6 or 7, micrograms of lead in the water is okay. When 60 or 70% of your kids have body burn.
I'm with you.
Right,
Okay, no, that's all right. I'm with you. So I am more than happy to share when the next Memphis Shelby County Schools next business meeting will be. If anybody wants to make public comment, I mean,
When is this?
Let me go ahead and Google it now. Since I'm right here.
Because I went to a board meeting, was it 2 weeks ago, but that wasn't the one you get to make comments.
Was it a committee meeting?
Your committee, that's people talking about dyslexia.
Oh, okay.
And they showed us that, almost of the 800, 900 kids in kindergarten have dyslexia. And then they showed you the other levels, how much their dyslexia, quite a bit. Lead can cause dyslexia. So my question is, are we testing those kids for their body work? The ones who classify as dyslexia?
Oh, the business meeting is next Tuesday.
Doesn't even, they pass them and you can't really pass them grade level.
Yeah.
They just keep passing them and passing them.
It's the 5:30. Ain't that something? Look at God.
So he got an idea, he got an idea.
Yeah, and
I mean, disability, does she get any disability check?
she should. but
The
that's
25th at 5:30
Oh, okay.
in the
Well,
co-auditorium.
That's one of the things I wanted to figure out, how we can get some resources to help some of the parents who have lead poison children, who are showing signs of, seriously.
He's in 10th grade and he can read.
Well, she's got a child who said he can't do anything, the 8-year-old, and they knew he was lead poison when he was 1 year old. But nobody's giving her any help, told her about how to do IDEA. But the IDEA, you have to have a psychiatrist or a doctor to evaluate the child, say, oh, yeah, it's brain damage, and then you get disability. And that's what, yeah, that's a good check.
But we need people like Tim Flack and those Lobotomer, M-Child and MAS attorneys to understand that and work towards helping these families get this done.
Right. Well,
Because that's a medical issue. If it's going through, if they're a Lobotomer client and they have legal issues going through M-Child, they help them get Social Security, SSI, and that should be one of the other things
Yeah.
we're trying to help them get.
IDEA.
Someone virtually just made a comment because I want to make sure that I get this on the record. Thank you, Yolanda, that's representing the Memphis community against pollution. The question was, do you think that we should create a video campaign via social media about lead? Yep, absolutely. Yep, we got National Lead Prevention Week starts Sunday. Like what it is, symptoms, etc. I think that would be great. And I'm gonna put absolutely in the chat box.
So many people think that their problem is
Oh, it's not at all.
Well, and I think right now with all of the violence going on with these young adults.
Oh my gosh,
it's
yes.
really like bringing it back up.
It's just like it was in the 90s. I grew up in the 90s. It was bloody. It was bloody in Memphis in the 90s. Right. And you still have housing projects full of lead. So, you know.
Now you got generation.
Yep.
Because I always thought that was the issue.
And we having kids now, so.
Generation. And they've shown that the kids to get exposed to lead in birth for their parents. Certain genes don't develop, so they're not able to fight off lead.
Epigenetics.
More sensitive.
Well, that's that. Thank you all for that. I'll mention again that the next business meeting for Memphis Shelby County Schools is just so interesting that it's during Lead Week,
Yeah.
Lead Poisoning Prevention Week. It's October the 26th at 5:30 p.m. in the co-auditorium, which is the big auditorium. And it's at 160 South Hollywood.
They still split the minutes up based on how many people want to talk.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I know when I was there one time, I had 2 minutes one time, I went and I had 30 seconds. 15
Yeah.
seconds. Well, I'm gonna take my package with me, so if they don't let me talk, I can just pass it out to each one of them.
Yeah. And you can email it to them too.
Ruth
Okay.
Ann will be in town that day.
Will she?
Oh, that'd be great.
Sure would. Ooh, when you get out of town, folks.
I'm gonna get a bunch of people there. So
She gonna have-
I'm gonna get a lot of these parents that we've been passing work about now. We're gonna have, I think I'm gonna have a pretty good group there.
So she's in town. EPA is coming Monday. HUD will be here Tuesday. And so, yeah, and she's leaving Wednesday morning and HUD is leaving.
And so the 26th is what day? That's Tuesday.
Is it, it's a Wednesday? I thought it was a Tuesday. It's a Wednesday?
26th.
Let me make sure I didn't lie. It's the 25th, y'all, and I said it with so much passion. It's Tuesday, because I was just like, no, it's not on a Wednesday. They meet on Tuesday. Sorry. It's October the 25th at 5:30 p.m. Oops. Something else must be happening in my life on that date.
It's the
I get the question.
That's what it is. I'm like, something is happening on the 26th.
EJ
In this space, yeah. Yeah, next week is, well, Chet is on the panel about lead in schools.
See, I put it on my
That's
calendar.
perfect, 'cause I'm gonna do a PSA about that too in the public comment. Look at everything coming full circle. You gonna be on the panel? You gonna do the panel? Because I didn't think that he didn't ask you right. We'll talk offline. Yeah, I'll talk to you offline. Ciao. All right, so thank you for that discussion on that item. Next item, update regarding the community request to speak before city council about lead service line replacement. So this was requested at the August LPC meeting. So yes, I do think that there should be a concerted effort to go before city council to do two things. So one is $5 million that they're allocating. That is not enough money at all. I did ask multiple times to MOGW, can they give a ballpark figure of how much they think it will cost to replace all of the lead service lines, all the lead service lines. I still have not received that. My rationale for asking that question is because I know that whatever is being allocated is not going to be enough. If that is the case, there could be advocacy from a congressional perspective, because we know that Cohen is always ready to, go to bat for this district. I don't think that I don't really think that that's resonating with them. They don't. They give. Well, the data that's in there is based on the data from the 90s.
Well, and they only found that after it was exposed on TV.
Right.
That any utility that doesn't know whether their water lines are breaking the law, they found some under the desk.
Well, like that information helps with grant writing for these federal funds.
It does. And you can use money, you literally can earmark money to improve your GIS mapping.
Right.
So they got a preliminary $500,000, where I've been pushing, I don't know how long for them being MOGW to be explicit around how that $500,000 will be used. And so they did go ahead and say that part of that $500,000, I like to say it that way, part of that $500,000 would go towards updating the GIS map. It would help with the partnership with the Memphis Shelby County Lead Safe Collaborative, who is actually doing the samples in the homes. If it does come back with those elevated levels, then that will prompt MOGW to actually do the test on their side, and then they will also need to update the map. We know that it's inaccurate. They know that it's inaccurate. Then another part of that is already based. Oh, Chet.
I'm doing something, we're doing with the GHA.
Okay.
We're doing it through the MAG program.
I'm sorry, I said some shit like commission, not what?
So
Which they're being very nice about giving us all the sample supplies.
yeah, I'm proud of them. It's
They
been a
have
long
little
time
table
coming.
that says, "Dive on that side." Now,
That's a big
the
deal.
problem is the map, it hasn't been working for at least.
Well, it's working, it's not working on our side. What they did is they changed the link. So our person that works on our computer went and did the link. So I called they responded. They showed me how to look at it on their side. And then she explained to me they have been working on the computer. So
They need to give an update when they do things like that, though.
She said she didn't know we had it on there. The lady that's over it, I was talking to her today. And she said, check me, you got that on your website? So I gave her our website, she went to it. She said, oh yeah, we changed, we did some work. And so my person that does ours said, check, they changed the link. So she put it back on there. I'm sure we okay. I'm gonna check when I get home. I'm sure we on there now. Because that's what we were telling everybody to go to our website.
You have to get these folks
Now, on the
together.
water samples, they're giving the results to me. They're not sending the results to the owners. So we have to send our own results to the owners or the property.
Well, that's because we turned them in and they gave a release. So The people signed the lease for their information to come to us.
Yeah.
We couldn't have anything go through them. I like the idea of it coming through us.
Because we see it.
So we can see what's going on. 'Cause I
Okay.
talked to them today, we want you to report any level that you have.
Yeah.
Now, they don't know if we're doing split sampling or not. That's something I always want to do all the way. But they don't know that whether we
Here's
took
the
a sample.
thing, like with the lead test, you're putting in some dummy dust wipes, you're putting in some
Spikes.
dummy spikes,
So you test the lab. But anyway,
you're
so.
testing the lab.
Ooh, I like
But you know, on that, speaking on this, that I think needs more emphasis, replacing the lead lines is great, and we need to aim at that, but we need to build the program right away.
Yeah.
I think what this testing even doing is showing that there's lead being released in every part of the city. And some of it can be from old, it can be from maintenance, it can be from jackhammering on the street, or like on Watkins, where you got all this heavy traffic, with all those big trucks. Because we actually get lead out the faucet on Watkins. We didn't have to pull it out the hot water tank. You know, that's what Lavonna said, they poured some chocolate.
And to get the water tested, the bill has to be in your name, which I don't understand, because let's say you rent and you're living in your mom's house that the bill is, or I don't think that should deter somebody from getting a lead water test because they live in a house that's.
See, that's that consent thing. That's what happened in Flint too. So that really, excuse my language, it pisses me off. So that's the exact same thing that's happening in Flint versus Newark. So in Newark was just like, we don't care. We, on the residential side, on our side, we excavating all of this. We're replacing it on both sides. We're not asking you for nothing. We don't really care. We're replacing all of it, right? It is the most innovative approach because they had support from the state level though. So they didn't have to, the state allocated their own funding. They didn't even have to go through all of these channels. And Flint is what Sharon described. So in Flint, even though we know for certain every single pipe in the city of Flint was jacked up, right? You still had to get consent. So if you are not on that deed, if your name is not on the deed, you couldn't get it done. And so similar,
Could get it done at all.
could have done it all.
And they could have took a water sample sent to a lab.
I mean, you can get a sample, but the remediation, the actual replacement,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
like you couldn't get it done.
But they won't even test that. If it's
But
not
they won't
a
even
customer
test?
name. Yeah, customer name has to be in the sample.
And you know, one of the things that we got with the line replacement, I know you was meeting with me and Nick. Them doing partial line replacements and continue to do it. And I'm gonna share with you, Levitt, I sent a letter to the mayor, and I'm gonna send one to some other people. We tested 3 places where they replaced the lead water line. Excuse me. And everywhere that they replaced the lead water line, we found lead in the people's hot water tank at exceptional levels. And 2 of those tanks had been changed within a week on the report I sent you.
Yeah, the Walker House.
The Walker House is the one that we went to. That one had a level of like 600 or 700. And the city had just put that water tank in a few weeks.
Is it lead on the
Oh,
residential
yeah.
side? Okay.
Oh,
Never mind, you just said that because it's a partial replacement.
Yeah, well, they didn't do a partial replacement on Walker. Walker was just where the city did some work and they asked me to do the testing. Now, they did a partial replacement over on Poe and several other streets that I tested, but we got the high reading. One of the first one we read on Poe was 1100. They had just changed hers out. Right, now on Walker.
That was 1100 in the hot water tank or in the actual
That
tap?
was in the hot water tank.
Okay.
Okay, I took it out the hot water tank and I took it out.
But you said that the tap was still high too, right?
No, her tap, we didn't test one out of the tap when I took it.
Okay.
I've been back there 4 times. Her 4th test, I did take it out the tap. I took it off the hot water side out of the sink. It
Mhm.
still came back with a 1 or 2. Okay, and then, but I sent in her tank last week. I tested her tank again to see if it's all the way empty. But it went down every time. We've been testing over the last 4 months, almost 5 months. So it's been going down.
So was that a result of kind of like that education piece around like flushing? Because that helped me. I need to get it together personally, but flushing like your hot water tank and that type of.
Flushing the tanks is really critical.
Okay.
And that's what I guess what should be emphasized.
Yeah, they were very emphatic that they weren't doing that.
Right.
Well, like,
Yet they
I don't
will
know,
not
you
do
may
like
know
the
this,
education
the
part on hot water
prices,
tanks.
When they were telling everybody to boil their water,
Right.
that just brings out the lead.
Yes.
So we had to go to MLW and say, they have to filter before they blow.
Yeah.
TDEC came through, they had our back that
Yeah,
time,
they did.
because we had to go around them, because MLGW was just like, no, they always want to do the bare minimum.
They did change it. though.
They did change it, they changed it, had to go around them.
So what
Yeah,
about
that's
the new
impressive.
president? Like,
I don't
It's
know.
not confirmed yet. Here's the numbers on the ARP funding for lead, and so they're doing 5.7 million on
Oh,
lead service
here.
line replacement, and then they're doing 389,000 on
That ain't
full
nothing.
lead service line planning.
Yeah.
So that's the ARP dollars. They have to get their application in by the, oops, shit. By the, there you go, by the 1st. And then those dollars are supposed to be allocated next year.
But they already missed the $500 million grant. I'm still mad about that.
Yeah, the meeting was 2 weeks before the grant got.
You have to like
Yep.
publicly shame.
We
them.
literally have been working like for a month and a half to meet with them. We had people in place that literally was like, we will write the grant for you. They stalled us until a week before the grant was
So
due.
they didn't have time to write it.
You know, I feel it.
I'm like, wow.
Your link's working.
All I do.
Are you, my website
Yeah,
working
they
now?
give me
Oh,
the-
okay,
It's
great.
there, it's taking you there.
It's 385,000.
I
Oh,
know she was on this side.
I'm on my hotspot.
She said,
Also, my computer's just-
Yeah, I hope so.
she said 1,000.
You got something to do.
Well, I think when the
Every sheet
new
of-
lead
every household
technical
gets it.
studies grant, we need to be prepared because the U of M, we helped the U of M with it, but it was such a weak proposal. We knew, I just didn't feel like it was gonna come. So really need to look at a lead technical studies grant that would do something like this body burden testing, do
Mm-hmm.
some testing in the schools, do testing in juvenile court.
Mm.
Really have a good plan for a technical studies that's really gonna show some results, not just, I mean, the whole thing was to do the Bible.
Right, right.
And but that was it. And we only got moved, so what's her name? I just wrote the body. Miriam.
Mary. Yeah.
She moved from U of M to Missouri.
I think-
Oh, when that happened?
Oh,
I didn't even know that.
Why, Lord?
It
Yeah.
was the people.
So the
I
grant
didn't know that.
actually was submitted by.
Why she
University
ain't
of-
tell me?
So the grant was actually submitted by the University of Missouri, not even the University of Memphis.
She was one of the most helpful people.
I mean, completely.
No, she started Missouri in August.
She did that research on the show that when you take the lead water lines out, you ain't solved the problem. You still got particles of lead on the other line. And so I'm wondering if people wasn't happy with the information she was sharing.
No, she's got a good opportunity at the University of Missouri.
I'm just wondering.
Well, you know they don't.
Yeah.
But that's something to look at.
You're
It's
right,
these
it's
lead
not
tech-
showing the right.
They showing that?
So it's, it just pulls up the map.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to her, so maybe she ain't hooked that link up yet. But if
I
you
don't
go
need to
like
get
that
them
water-
together. They need to send a
NL-
notice if they're working on
NL.com,
that map.
Water.
Yeah.
And then you go to, it's called,
Oh my God.
yeah.
I don't know.
I've been
Is
She all right?
www.com, then go to water.
Probably not emotionally. Ooh.
I got the list wrote down.
I'm an unknown doc, because my place was built in 1983.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I felt
This
it.
built in 1983?
It was
Oh,
underneath.
okay.
You think so? No, it was fixed.
No, they stopped putting it, and I was outlawed in the paint in 78. They stopped demanding CNC water lines around 1970, but I can't get a definite from the plumbing department. I can't get a definite.
I live downtown, so all my actual
Oh, okay.
distribution
Okay.
mains.
No, they changed.
Well, they're actually digging up the line right now,
Ooh.
and it looks like they're replacing.
Yeah, not downtown, downtown, is a nice workplace.
Mhm.
Downtown, they replace a lot of mains.
That's
They
good.
put lines out. I don't think you got no lead water lines downtown.
Riverside is questionable.
Riverside, you talking about Riverside?
Downtown,
Riverside.
Still
You talking about
30103.
Riverside, the one that where the house is at. You talking about Riverside downtown?
I am talking about Riverside downtown.
You look on that, I don't think you don't find no lead lines down there. You think it is?
It's toxins in that water.
Come on.
My water was brown today.
I still filter
Me too.
But your work with Brown?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Brown, I tell people the same class to that.
And you've got all that I-55
Mhm.
construction going on right there.
Yeah, I don't
They
trust
really
it.
shake Russell, yeah.
Okay, so thank you for the update around. So I think I'm gonna have to tap into some community groups. I explain this every time. I have horrible experiences with engaging with city council. But it does need to happen. I don't know.
I'm glad to go to their meeting next week too.
I recommended a white male. They don't like women of any race. They spoke very, they don't like women of any race. It doesn't matter who you are. So I don't know.
Like Whoopi Goldberg, remember you said Whoopi Goldberg, she had to dress up to be a white man.
Oh, no, now. Not in whiteface. Nope.
She did not be dressed up, because she was not here, but anyway.
So I don't know.
We gonna see, I did send you a copy of the letter I sent them, so we gonna see, because I haven't heard back from her, they asked me.
They really need to go, and before we go to this next item, and I do know that we're over time significantly, but this is good discourse. I know there was raised advocacy around a lead ordinance. If there was a lead ordinance, this would really solve a lot of things on the city side, because we can only do so much on the county side. That's the rub.
I agree. And that's why it's important for them to really know what the situation is in Memphis, so that they do what's necessary.
Do we have like some parents that feel comfortable enough, like parents that have children that have been lead poisoned, like even if we tap into like your
Well, I'm gonna give you
your
everything.
heart?
That's what I'm
Amy
hoping.
Ramsey is working with her students.
Okay.
Even without the grant on the lead ordinance with you.
Yeah.
So they'll be working on a lead ordinance. I just think when this Office of Minority Health comes back up, we need to be better prepared with a better evaluation plan. I think that's what was really weak, was the U of M evaluation plan, because it has to be a.
Dang, and they just got in trouble
what
about
is it?
research.
Yeah.
Say
So,
about really talking about that,
It was just the article that came out about
Is it
like
the animal testing thing?
something happened where they went in on U of M about like just research not being good.
that was the death, that was the head of death all of them.
Yeah,
Anyway, I'm sorry, Sharon.
so the lead ordinance, she will be working with it with her students to develop the ordinance. We just have to find really.
We need somebody to sponsor it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know nobody on city council that would.
Your old buddy physician, Dr. Warren.
I don't know anybody that's on city council that would sponsor it. I think they give a lot of lip service, but when it's time to actually be firm, no, that's why I'm like, if we had people that's like, this is my baby, or the baby themselves, or a person that's just like, right, like how you can't talk crazy and be degrading to the individual I hope, my God, I hope, oh Jesus. With some of them, I don't put nothing past them, but I really think that will be the powerful piece, because unlike Shelby County, they respect science, and like if you're very like put together and like formality. Well, so they don't care about that. With city council, I feel like if you're very like efficient and like very like a well-oiled like presentation,
They don't like that.
they don't like that. The delivery is the part that I clearly don't have it. But I don't know. But it has to happen on the city side. I don't know. But anywho,
We're hoping, we're gonna see what happens next week. We're hoping, we plan to make a visit to them. City council, they have a meeting next week. We plan to go. Get some, hopefully get some people from the community to show up.
let me know how that works out,
I will.
because I have to maintain my professionalism, because you're not gonna talk to me crazy. All right, the next update, this one is short. So the LPC website content, kudos to Jerry with Mayor Harris's team is helping to get that established. So hopefully I'll have an update and some content to share by our next meeting. Also, I learned today, I'm really excited about this. There's a whole blurb on the Shelby County Health Department website about LPC. Did y'all know that? I I was just like, oh, look at that. I was really excited about it. So if you go to the this long childhood lead poison prevention program page, there we go. That's still long.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that.
And then it's a little blurb that's at the bottom. Also, Chet, you on there too, and JHHI. Fancy. I was very impressed.
Go look at that.
Yeah, I was like, that's a big deal. I think it's a big deal. Okay, the next item. Okay, so community requests for citywide lead awareness event. So next week is kind of packed. There will be a forum here, I guess in this very room. Yep. Um, next Wednesday. Sharon will be on the panel, and I'm gonna talk to you offline. Chet will also be on the panel. I know. And now Commissioner Frank Johnson, who was just appointed with the vacant seat for the Memphis Shelby County School Board, will be on that panel. I'm so excited about that representation. So this should be good. The public forum will address issues surrounding lead in drinking water in our public schools. Also, so there was a request for a county proclamation for Lead Poison Prevention Week. Really, it could have been done today. That was my bad. I needed to send in another little blurb, but it will be ready before, like, right at the inception of the week. So that's exciting. Oh, yep. And so you get a picture with it and all of that. When is that meeting? So I can make sure that it can all happen.
So, Tuesday at 1.
Tuesday at 1.
That's gonna be
Okay.
Zoom.
It's both.
Oh.
Yeah, you could just take a picture with the proclamation. Okay. Yeah, thank you. But that's exciting. I think that might be the first proclamation that we've had for Lead Poison Prevention Week.
We always get the State Healthy Homes Week one.
Yeah, but a local one. I'm
Yeah.
pretty impressed. Because that's always one that's a little bit tricky. Folks get weird about lead, but go county, go. And then I will go through this fairly quickly. Moving to new business. So thank you for your patience with this annual report. So I did do the 2021 report. Just a quick summary. So based on this checklist, Memphis Shelby County Schools made a lot of positive changes between the 2019 testing and the most recent testing for the 2021 academic school year. There's still, some areas of improvement, particularly around like record keeping, and the transparency piece is not where I think that it should be. I really wish that they would push for the way that DC and Baltimore, for example, they just put all of the tests, if it's good, bad, ugly, they just make it all public for you to see. That part it needs to be better. Now, what's new for this report that wasn't included in the first report that we did, and by the way, this report is actually in the actual resolution for us to do as a LPC. Last report, we didn't include the municipal schools or the achievement school district. I did take that feedback. Well, no. There's no public information that was accessible about what those results entail. I think it was really interesting, being that the achievement school district is run by the state. Now, with some of the municipalities, unfortunately, because there were elevated levels, we found out literally right before school started that there were elevated levels, but that was through media. It wasn't through like a mechanism that they had in place where it was community facing. So, and all the reports for every single municipal district is unknown. So we don't know. Yeah. The other high point was just some of our achievements as a LPC. Okay. So the biggest thing is the advocacy around the funding. That's literally the first time ever the language was used around environmental justice in the resolution. And also, we got before county commission, I think at least twice, which was good. We also got in front of, I was going to say the Congressional Black Caucus, I'm sorry. The Shelby County Black Caucus, I couldn't think of it at the moment. Also, some collaboration with some other organizations in Memphis. The big thing is we were selected as a county with the roundtable with EPA for the first round of comments for the lead and copper rule. That was a real big deal. So that was really exciting that we were able to do that. And I have a breakdown. We also got a proclamation for World Water Day. I'm proud of Mayor Harris's office because they actually brought that to us and said, "Hey, do you think we should do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, proud of you. Look at that." So that was really exciting. And then also kudos to Sharon as an LPC member, and then also Chet, who stuck it through because I did not, with the appreciative inquiry workshop. Just in full transparency, that was a cooperative that included multiple stakeholders, like so community folks, nonprofit folks, MLGW, and some elected officials as well, to essentially come up with a plan around how to solve issues surrounding lead. Yeah, so that's pretty much the report in a nutshell. Yay. Any questions? Yeah, sorry it took so long for me to get that together. It was a lot.
That's one of the things that we did a lot of work. EPA spent a nice little piece of change, but they need to more they put to the fire to help us get to that next step.
Well, you know my stance, which is why I was like, I'm not being here anymore if you're gonna keep circling around the mulberry bush. You didn't do what you were supposed to do in the first appreciative inquiry, and if you refuse to acknowledge what you didn't do the first time, I'm not gonna be here the second time.
I do understand.
But thank y'all sticking it out. Sticking it through.
Oh, yeah.
Even after they asked me in the side conversation to come back, I'm like, no. Last thing, not infrastructure money, sorry. The $160,000 funding that came through resolution that was passed in February. Oh my God, it took forever for us to find that money. I did have to get a little bit aggressive. It probably kind of made some people mad, but shrugs. So the money is currently with Dorcas Griffin, who's over community, I'm gonna mess up her title, community services. So it's in her budget, which is interesting because this work is actually connected with John Zena's work. So the way that the resolution is written, it does not specify who that money should go to. However, it does speak to what can be done with the money. The recommendation, and I'm gonna say this because I have to be neutral because I don't want no problems. The recommendation is for this funding to go to an existing program. Because of the amount, it seems like it's not a lot, but it's not. The recommendation is for the funding to fund the MHE program, which is a program, just for on the record, because I don't want any issues because of affiliations with LPC. It would be the work that is currently done through GHHI as the organization and the Memphis Shelby County Led Safe Collaborative. Now, a key thing to know about this particular funding, because it speaks to environmental justice explicitly, the impetus of this resolution was for the funding to go to a Black, Latinx, or Indigenous-led or founded organization. If, because this is not set in stone, I don't know. This is the recommendation. If that is the case, and if the MHE program is the program that's going to receive this funding, it would not change the programmatic model. It wouldn't change anything. The only thing that would change would be who would be in receipt of that funding. But again, I don't know who's going to receive the funding.
And who's the person that's over there?
So it's split between two departments. So what's John Zena's team? What is his team?
Planning and development.
Yeah, thank y'all. So that team, say it again, planning and development. Okay. I keep messing it up. John Zena's team and Dorcas Griffin Young. What did I do that in the inverse? Dorcas
Young Griffin.
Young Griffin. Listen,
That's Paul's sister.
right now. So that's all I got there. And again, I want to keep reiterating on the record that I am being careful. My affiliations with anything else, Latricia Adams and none of her affiliations will have anything to do with this funding. So, yep.
But I mean, it going to the MHE to support the community to be able to, that's workforce development, you're looking at environmental hazards. You've got a contractor that's LOSB that's managing the assessors. I mean, I don't see how they can, that, I mean, it's a good program for everybody. It's recommended by the community members of who's, I would say, 100% or Black,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right now?
I don't think it would be any pushback at all.
That's master home environment.
Mhm.
I thought this was going to CTC. Is that?
I don't know. I don't know who the recipient is going to be, so I do not know. But the recommendation that's explicit is that it will go to this particular program because it already exists, and there's already the EPA work. Is it the collaborative? What's the name of the grant?
The EPA EJ grant is already
Yeah,
there too, so.
Right. So there's the EPA Environmental Justice Grant. It makes the most sense that if you pretty much are matching that funding with EPA funding, it would make us more, as a county, it would make us more competitive should we try to apply for something else, because now you're showing that you have local investment into a program that's long-standing as opposed to like something that's like brand spanking new. Yeah, yeah.
And then you have track record. That results. We finished this last study, I think that's real good thing to talk about.
And I mean, we're putting so much more into it, so we're putting CDBG funds into the programs now, EPA, integrated pest management funds into the program, we're doing water testing now. I mean,
And that's now filters. The filter program is one of the things I'm saying
Who's doing the filter?
Yeah, don't y'all partner with your team too, right?
They passed out filters too.
y'all are doing
Okay, yeah.
filters too?
My bad. I'm like Yolanda, she don't know who I'm pointing to.
Which group is that?
I am pointing to, the Shelby County Housing Division, my bad, because she can't see it. Oh, what's the name of it? Y'all know I remix these names of these departments, I'm sorry. There we go, what she said. Okay, and then the last thing, is I mentioned earlier that I will go before County Commission's, Conservation Committee, based on community input, not from Latricia, I don't want any issues, around there being more investment based on the big pots of money from the federal perspective. So the bipartisan infrastructure funding, particularly around transparency, around if and what will go towards EJ, the remaining American Rescue Act funding, and then the Inflation Reduction Act funding, which is kind of new, I think, and I can send this to everybody. There is a briefing, I think, that's coming up that's going to kind of explain what that's going to look like on the environment side, because it's kind of a hodgepodge of things. But Yep, so that will be at next Wednesday. That's next Wednesday too. Busy day on the 26th. It's slated to start at 8:30, but who knows? And that is all that I have. So because we are way over, but I thank you all. Since we didn't, well, wait. No, we might have quorum. Wait a minute. Oh, wait, let me see. Two, because there's 5 of us now. No. Yes, 5 of us now. Oh, so we did meet quorum.
So its public meeting is on the 25th of EJ considerations for the development of the LCRI.
Okay.
That is 12 o'clock on Tuesday.
Also, it's Tuesday, the 25th. Why I keep putting everything on the 26th?
That's a Zoom, that's gonna be a Zoom meeting as well.
Yeah, and Matt Amon changed to be here at 1, so I'm supposed to be up for public comments, so if somebody would like to take my public comments, they probably can.
It's a lot going on next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Concerning the filter program, so Zero Water is supposed to.
oh,
And they're selling them to us at cost. So try to help get that. We're getting it in Rhode Island, Memphis, Jackson, Mississippi are all doing the filter program now. So if you need to do the Zero Waters, they're really a good deal.
yeah, and they're the best. That's what they used in Flint.
They get out more.
That's what I get at my house.
Under same thing.
So they have, yeah, but I mean, they have
You can
different
do,
ones, but yeah.
You can do big pictures, small pictures, any size. So.
I got the big canister thing.
Yeah, you got one, you fill up quite a bit, get lots of cups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they sell those too.
So we're gonna provide a 10-cup filter and 2 replacement filters.
That's good. Because the little bitty filters like that, water was given out, were for families, those are really small. And then once you disturb that line, we really got to get the word out. People really and get away from those hot water tanks.
Okay.
Stop using hot water.
All right.
Take a shot.
So we have to go ahead and conclude. I feel like the library is about to close. Since we have quorum now, I would like to make a motion to conclude the Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission meeting at 7:42 p.m. All right. Luz, thank you. Woo!
Oh, Sharon, I just tell you, they use the test system.
They did? What did they say?
They like the color.
Well, it came out of the tap.
They sure did.
Well, give it.
I'm gonna, no, I mean, they're gonna take, I'm gonna take the sample off and send it to our lab. I already took one out of his hot water tank, but I'm gonna